Hello to all my cans, chicks, and peas. It's Carla, and I'm back again in my kitchen today to celebrate and elevate one of the world's great ingredients, the canned chickpea. And what I wanted to do today, in the spirit of cottage cheese 3 ways and canned tuna 3 ways, was to take the chickpea and do things with it that maybe you haven't thought about doing before. 1 skillet pasta ceci, which is all the beauty of pasta ceci in 1 pan. Then I'm gonna show you how to make a halloumi melt-a-thon, which is kind of like Mediterranean nachos with a crunchy salad that gets put on top. I invented a new thing called cheese sheets. We're gonna get into that. And then finally, Larb-anzo bean salad, which is a delicious chickpea salad with lots of veggies in it that has all the flavors of larb and is like tangy and salty and crunchy, and you can make lettuce wrappers with. So I pushed myself, and now I shall not push, but gently open the door to the chickpea kingdom for you to enter with me. So let's go there together. 3 really fast dinners, 30 minutes or less, like really leaning into chuggy mom stuff with this one. For the busy moms and the starving students, this is for you. Huge thank you to DoorDash for sponsoring this episode. DoorDash is so much more than a food delivery app. It can also be a grocery trip saver or just cut down on the errands that you have to run. Shopping through the DoorDash delivery app is so easy. I can choose from my favorite local stores to pantry supplies to pet supplies to gifts, all from the app. I love that I can customize, substitute, schedule, and track my order. On days like today, when I'm shooting, I can quickly order any ingredients that we may have missed without even stopping the cameras from rolling. Get everything you need when you need it. Use code CARLA2024 to get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more at grocery stores, convenience stores, and select retail stores. Pasta ceci is like pasta fagiole. It is a pasta and bean dish. It is classic with chickpeas. I really wanted to do it for this episode, but I was like, what can I bring to the pasta ceci conversation? What makes it worth it? I don't really want to do crazy flavors or blah, 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 but I really want to do this. And then I was like, oh, I know. We'll do it as 1 skillet, weeknight dinner with all of the delicious, homey, kind of comforting flavors using canned chickpeas and doing it in 1 skillet. You may remember from my 1 skillet pasta recipe, I had never made or developed a 1 skillet pasta until I made my own because frankly, I just thought it was bullshit and it was never going to be as good as making pasta the normal way. And then I developed the recipe and was like, oh, this is actually really good. So I took all of that self-imposed learning from a very egotistical point of view and applied it to 1 pot pasta ceci, and it came out really great. I'm using chicken stock today because I happen to have it in the freezer, but if you use vegetable stock or mushroom stock or even water, this would be vegetarian, which is also great. I love my veg heads. So I have a little bit of garlic and I have a shallot, which could be an onion, which could be a leek, which could be some other allium, whatever you have around. This is my Goldilocks skillet. This is actually one of the newer shapes, which I really, really, really like this shape. So this is a straight-sided skillet. It's a 3.5 quart. I think it's about a 10-inch diameter. So you just want something that is sturdy, heavy-bottomed, good heat conductivity, and has a tight-fitting lid because the lid is going to come on and off a couple of times during the cooking. If you have a shallow Dutch oven, you can use that. Even if you had a cast iron skillet with a lid, you could use that. Thinly slicing. And I have this just over medium heat to warm up while I'm chopping the veg. Okay. So I did this the first time with a 1/4 cup. It wasn't quite rich enough. So it's a 1/4 cup plus an extra tablespoon, which is 5 tablespoons of olive oil. My arm and this bottle knows exactly what that feels like. Those are gonna go in. Season with a little salt and pepper. Someone commented recently, really, you have to say peps. You don't have time to say pepper. So for that person, pepper it is. Let these start to sizzle. And then quickly, I have some oregano. If you don't have fresh oregano, you don't want to buy 2 herbs. Just use dried oregano here. I happen to have some oregano doing like last gasp out on the deck. So I went with the fresh oregano because I wanted to use it. And then I'm also using rosemary, which is pretty classic. So again, like pretty classic flavors. The oregano is like pretty tender, but the rosemary is pretty woody. And if I'm putting rosemary in a dish and I'm not going to take the sprig of rosemary out later, I really want to mince it because like it can just be intense to bite into. My sister is very sensitive to rosemary. The other aromatic that I'm going to put in here is just about half a teaspoon of whole fennel seed. Ooh, some of them wanted to be liberated. And I'm just going to crush these up a bit before I add them. If you have a spice grinder, you could use that. I really love fennel, which is something everybody knows about me. Okay, so that goes in. Stir, stir. This looks so pretty already. Gorgeous and delicious. So now I'm just going to throw the lid on to jumpstart the cooking process, build up some steam, get my aromatics to wilt and tenderize, like 2 or 3 minutes, checking. Should be over medium high now. And check and stir and check until things are really nice and tender and starting to brown. So 2 to 3 minutes. So now that everything is like really tender, browning at the edges, starting to look a little bit frizzly because of, good amount of oil and time under there, I'm gonna add some tomato paste to the pan. Stir that in. I want to coat my aromatics with tomato paste and start to fry the tomato paste in the oil. So very quickly this oil turns this gorgeous orangey red color. I'm also going to use a little bit of chili flake for heat, which you could skip or you could use a mild chili. I like a little spicy. I would sprinkle it on anyway. I didn't add this from the beginning because I didn't want to risk burning. The chili tends to go pretty fast. And then I have one regular 15-ounce can of chickpeas that were drained and rinsed. So all of the recipes in this video are going to say to drain and rinse. Some people don't mind the canned chickpea liquid. I don't like the texture of it. So I always drain and rinse. But I also always use a fully seasoned canned chickpeas. The low sodium ones, like if you're on a low sodium diet, great. But to me, the chickpea itself is under seasoned. I just use regular. So that said, I will season with salt. I want to warm these up. I want to see some sizzling and make sure that the chickpeas are warmed through. All right. Now, because I wanted to add body to the finished Ceci, I'm gonna use a potato masher. You could use the back of a spoon or a big fork. And I'm just gonna crush about half of the chickpeas. So this is gonna give a nice mix of textures. It's gonna help thicken the cooking liquid and make it feel nice and rich and creamy. And so that's why I'm doing it. So we get both ways. If I didn't crush the chickpeas, the soup at the end, or the whatever this is at the end, would be a little bit more like chickpeas and pasta suspended in more of a broth. Now it's gonna feel more like a creamy soup. Okay, and then at this point, I'm adding my homemade stock. I had this because I was convalescing and I made myself a giant batch of chicken stock and froze half of it. So now the chickpea, the veggies, the starchy, made a little bit of fond on the bottom of the skillet. So I'm gonna use my wooden spoon to scrape that up. And you can feel it and hear it, right? I wanna release all of that. And as soon as this comes to a simmer, I'm gonna go in with the pasta. So we're gonna use a dried, really classically, like, I looked at lots of pictures before I developed my recipe. People use ditalini all the time, which is like the tiny little cut tube, which I love ditalini, but I also love for something like this, a shape like orecchiette or a mini shell. And I chose cavatelli, which has lots of ridges, a little bit of a scoop, like soup's gonna get in there. All these ridges are really fun to eat. It's gonna absorb. And you wanna use something that's gonna take, you know, between 10 and 14 minutes to cook all the way through, and just make sure that you take stock of that wherever it is on. This one is 13 to 15. So this is a pretty like bronze dyed, artisanal, matte. And I've talked about this before, that like the texture of the pasta will really affect the finished consistency of your sauce. So these are very coarse, matte, dried pastas. They're gonna absorb a good amount of liquid. If you're using something like a regular mini shell that's a little bit more shiny, it will probably not give up as much starch and not absorb as much water. This is half a pound. Okay, so I'm gonna lower the heat and we're just gonna maintain a gentle simmer. Adjust your heat as you need to, and also as the liquid reduces, just scrape down the sides so that you don't get burning around the edge. But at this point, you can grate some cheese, you can set the table. You are 15 minutes away from dinner. 13 minutes later, look at what has happened. You would think this was simmering all day. Long enough for me to like become an actual grandmother. But no, it was like this entire dinner is half an hour. We're going to add a little bit of some pre-grated parm. I'm holding some back to serve at the table, and just stir that in. This is like, you know, the way that you would add cheese at the last step of the pasta sauce. It's going to add a little bit of richness, a little bit of saltiness. It's gonna add a little glossiness as it melts. So it's a good idea maybe to add that last bit of cheese before your final taste for salt. You can always add a little bit more at the table. And also if the cheese like thickens the soup more than you want, add another splash of water. I love how this looks. I love how this tastes. I love how fast this was. Like you could bust this out on a Sunday when you were out on your hike all day and you didn't actually spend 5 hours making pasta fagiole. Or you can make it on Tuesday and feel like it's Sunday. You could also serve it with Carol's fried bread, and that would be great. I'm gonna add a little more cheese. I'm gonna add a little drizzle, black pepper. Just keep it going. Little flaky salt. Yum. Love. So excited. So happy. A one skillet classic. It's perfect. Last little bit of olive oil. Really good. 10 out of 10 would make again. At the risk of offending people on multiple continents, the easiest way to describe the chickpea halloumi melt-a-thon is Mediterranean nachos. I know that that sounds horrible. Another like slightly offensive way of describing what I'm about to do is to say sheet pan dinner. So I don't know what offends you more coming out of my mouth, but whichever one it is, just lean into it. I'm owning it. I had some self-hate when I realized that I was making a sheet pan dinner, but then I was like, wait, but why? Why are we hating on a sheet pan dinner that is like really, really, really fucking good, and then also can be reheated the next day for a really easy lunch, and is vegetarian, and has a lot of protein, and has like your RDA of fruits and vegetables. I mean, it's a slam dunk, whatever you want to call it. So the concept here is a hot and crunchy cheesy with a cool, crunchy refresca on top. And the cheeses that I'm choosing are important. I'm using halloumi, one of the great cheeses. which is a cheese that doesn't actually melt. So this cheese is used a lot in grilling, and it can be broiled, and it doesn't disappear and melt on you. It's never gonna make like a cheese pull, but that's kind of the beauty of it. It's like stretchy, it's squeaky, it's firm, and it's salty, and halloumi is really one of my favorite cheeses. So I've got a package of halloumi, which is 8.8 ounces, which is probably something normal. Also 8 ounces, half a block of low moisture mozzarella. So the combination of these cheeses is that the halloumi stays in its pieces, and the mozzarella is gonna cheese pull and melt and start to brown on the bottom of the sheet pan. And the way that the mozzarella melts, it then becomes a cheese sheet that the other things get stuck into. So it's like a foundation in which the rebar is the halloumi, and there's like nuggets of rebar suspended in melted cheese sheet. It's pretty great. I'm just gonna say. So cutting those into the same sizes, like a 1/2 inch cube. And the reason I use low moisture mozzarella is because of the way it melts. So regular like fresh mozzarella will melt and it'll get stringy, but it won't, it has too high of a water content to do what I want it to do. Okay, so we have our cheeses. Gorge. A child could make this. In fact, after I developed this dish, I sent pictures of it and the ingredients to my child who is doing a semester abroad and has to do all of his own shopping and cooking and has very minimal equipment where he's living. So 2 cans of chickpeas, 2 kinds of cheeses, those go together. Then I have an entire bag of pita chips. I use the thin ones because I could, and they're like a little more chip-like. So in the, you know, offensive like nacho comparison, a little bit thinner of a chip. But if you got the regular pita chips, they will work terrifically well. They'll just be they're just a little thicker, and they're gonna be like a little bit sturdier crunch, whereas these have like a crispy crunch to them. So that goes in. I'm gonna grate the zest of this lemon, the entire lemon. I'm using the juice later for the topping. And I just like to do this right over the bowl because so many of the essential oils like fly right off. And if you do it over the bowl, they'll ideally just atomize over your ingredients. Then also to this, to like spice up our life and give it a little bit of like Mediterranean je ne sais quoi, I went into my spice drawer and I looked for spice mixes. The one that I'm going to use, and I'm using a spice mix so that I don't have to call for like 4 different spices, right? Which is just like, we're grabbing, we're going. And in the way that a bottled condiment is so genius because it's one ingredient that has like multiple flavor payoff, a good spice blend can do the same thing. So the one I'm using is from Kismet. It's a restaurant in LA. I went to their book party. They sent me their book, and this spice mix was part of the package, and it had everything that I kind of wanted. So I was looking for like some warm spice, some like more earthy spices, and like some brightness. So this one has chili, coriander, cumin, paprika, turmeric, black pepper, and cinnamon. So like cinnamon, paprika on the warming end, cumin and coriander are more on like cooling, bright, citrusy, like, you know, awake kind of spices. Turmeric and black pepper give like more earthiness and like a little bit of a bitter spice. So I was like, perfect. It has like everything I want. It's got the fruitiness, it's got the blah, 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 and it's got the blah, blah, blah. I realized later that even though this was made with burlap and barrel, that like, you can't buy this. Okay, so it's a full tablespoon. And so I'm not trying to like make your life difficult. There's so many other things in my spice drawer that I could have chosen. So if you've got Baharat, if you've got Za'atar, if you've got another kind of za'atar. And then this one is called Smoldering Embers. This is like another like earthy, savory. So there's just like so many of these. Even chili powder, which is gonna have cumin, something spicy, paprika, like a regular chili with an eye powder that is a blend, that could work. This one has coriander, urfa chili, cumin, star anise, black cardamom, bay leaf, garlic. So same vibe. If you don't have any spice mixes, put together a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of smoked paprika, and then a teaspoon of a spicy chili. Like that could be black pepper, or that could be like a Aleppo pepper or a chili flake. That will also work. It's kind of getting you all of the things. And I'm gonna lube this up with 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Toss, toss. So this to me is like a great dinner if you're a college student, because it's going to be really filling. It has a good amount of protein. It is inexpensive. It's really easy. You need minimal equipment. It is also great for like TV dinner in front of the game. It's also great for dinner at the table, because you can plate this up and put your crunchy salsa on top, and it's like fully feels like a meal. And also, who doesn't want to have nachos for dinner? It's a freaking dream. Okay, so everything is like nicely coated, ready to go. I'm just going to dump it out onto the baking sheet. And originally I was like, oh, should the chips be on the bottom? Like nachos, or layered in between? That felt really fussy and annoying for something like this. Then I was like, I did one round of it, and I thought maybe I should divide the olive oil in half and toss the chips separately and put those down, and then put the other stuff down. I was like, that's annoying, and it uses another bowl, and then I have to write in what to do. So I just, in the end, like, it's a stir and dump, and I'm like, I'm gonna own it, even though it made me feel weird. Because, like, how many sheet pan dinners have I done in this whole entire time? I think I've had this channel for 4 years. There's a delicious chicken sheet pan dinner. In that video, I talk about how sheet pan dinners are a myth and a lie that recipe developers tell you. And I don't think, can you think of another sheet pan dinner? That's the only one. And it's like a huge category. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like arrogant and superior about it. But then every time I do it, I'm like, oh, I get it. If you can make it work, it's fucking great. So what I'm doing now, while I talk shit about sheet pan dinners, is I'm just like casually, without being too obsessive about it, is like pulling some of the pita under these toppings. And again, it's like, I do want some of the cheese on the bottom anyway, because that's how we get cheese sheets, but I just don't want all the chips to be on top and dry out. And then also remembering sheet pan anatomy, that the edges of the sheet pan are hotter than the center, because the center is insulated, like the center of the little penguin hub where they're protecting the egg. The outer edge, you want to make sure that you load it up, because if you leave it, if you don't get everything wall to wall, the stuff at the edges is going to have a tendency to cook too fast and then char. Okay, I'm satisfied. My corners are insulated. Chickpea and cheeses are like pretty nicely distributed, and my oven is at 375. So this is gonna go in the oven for half an hour, and during that time, I'm gonna make, for lack of a better word, a Mediterranean salsa. Okay, so in the oven, we're gonna have a hot, melty, crispy, cheesy, rich, spiced, earthy delight, okay? For the topping, I want contrast. I want crunchy, juicy, bright, refreshing, all of those things. So I went with radish, cucumber, and cherry tomatoes with some onion. Very, very straightforward. I think any kind of crunchy, juicy things in combination are going to be great. These three things are really easy to get year round. So this is the life that we're living. So I think it's fun, since you have half an hour anyway while this thing is in the oven, to kind of like cut these up slightly differently just for like textural interest, and so it doesn't all look just like the same texture over and over again. So like not a pico de gallo energy where everything would be like the same. But I'm just gonna quarter and chop the cukes, and I'm just gonna, like, I don't know, with every vegetable, just do it slightly differently. So it's fun to eat and fun to have like different shapes of things coming at ya. So this is 3 mini cucumbers, which I think is probably equivalent to like 1 English hothouse. And like I knew it was gonna happen, but when they started marketing the mini cucumbers and like calling them Persian cucumbers, but now we just all say mini cucumbers. And they're probably not even like, as far as like the Latin plant word, I bet they're not even Persian cucumbers. This is what happens when big cucumber takes over. Like a tangerine is not a tangerine anymore, it's a cutie. That's a brand name. For crying out loud. But anyway, we love cucumbers. So for the red radishes, I'm gonna thinly slice. I'm gonna use the mandolin. You could quarter these as well, or you could thinly slice by hand if you don't have a mandolin or you don't like using a mandolin. But I think like sliced radish is just really pretty. And it goes fast. And they have a built-in handle, so you can keep your fingers out of the fray. Great colors, great textures, great nutritional value. Radishes are in the cruciferous family. That's it. This is an antioxidant vegetable over here. Cucumbers, very hydrating. Very good if you're with child. You need to be like hydrated all the time. Onions have like minerals and stuff. I don't really know, but I'm gonna dice the onion. And I know it's annoying, I'm using a quarter onion, but like there's plenty of uses for onions, so I trust you'll use it up. The onion, another calcium, filled with calcium and minerals and preventing cancer. We love that. Then finally, I've got cherry tomatoes. This is 1 pint of cherry tomatoes. They happen to be like the smallest cherry tomatoes currently on earth. Cutting them will take longer than if they were bigger because there's more of them. But this is our lot in life. This is what we chose. So I'm gonna use my food stylist trick of not cutting them directly in half. I don't know. Let's try the other trick. That trick. Yeah, this is like, I don't know. Is it faster? Let's try it. Like, I've done it before. I don't really care for it, but I'll do it. It's look, that's I fucking hate that. I'm never doing that again. God damn it. Okay. Now we know. It's bullshit. But it's fast. So if you want to do something fast and shittily, there's a hack for that. I feel like hacks are over, and now what's in is people making things in really quick videos that look good and would be literally impossible to reproduce at home. We got a laugh out of Tim, guys.
It's a big day.
It's a big day. It's like a rare sheet pan dinner and a rare chuckle out of Tim. We love that. All right, cilantro, leaves and stems. Other choices would be parsley, mint, chives, fennel frond, celery leaf, any individually or in combination would go together. A little bit of tarragon. You have some chervil lying around. No one ever does, but go for it. And just for something leafy, herby, bright, cooling, all of the things. That goes in. And then I have some pickled hot peppers. These are cherry bomb peppers. If you had like those hot Hungarian peppers, or if you had the pepperoncini, like any kind of bright vinegary, spicy situation. And I want about a 1/4 cup after these are cut, which ended up being like 8 slices. Sometimes these come whole, the cherry bomb peppers. You could definitely use those. I just happen to have sliced ones. And if you're using the whole ones, it's probably like two of them minced. So I like something hot, vinegary, sharp, all like bright, juicy. If you really don't like spice, so just omit this. You've got plenty of like other juicy things, and you could maybe add like a splash of vinegar. I'm gonna use lemon juice, but if you're not using a pickled pepper, just add like some white distilled vinegar or a splash of red wine vinegar. All right, so now we have our zested lemon that we put the zest in to the chickpea mixture. I'm just gonna squeeze that over. Last but not least, a clove of garlic that I hid in the salt bowl so that I wouldn't forget it. I'm gonna grate that in so that we get garlic flavor without getting garlic bits. It's time for a new microplane. Microplane people, if you're out there, hook a sister up. And I'm not gonna name names, but I had an off-brand microplane in my possession. Threw it in the garbage. We had a spoon incident. I'm just like, I've somehow ended up low on wooden spoons, and this happened when I was sick with COVID, and poor Cosmo and I were quarantining at home separately. And I was in my room and I smelled burning. And I thought someone was like, had a pile of like autumn leaves, like literally on fire outside of my bedroom window. Didn't see anything. Still smelled smoke. Cosmo was home, but couldn't figure out what was coming around. Just gets a little olive oil too. Smelling smoke. Is it coming from inside the house? Is it outside? Sticking my head out the window. Finally, I'm like, Cosmo! 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 So I called him because we were quarantining. I FaceTimed him. I'm like, hey. He's like, hey, Mom, what's up? I'm like, is something on fire? And he was like, yeah. So funny story. There was a spoon near the burner. I was cooking. I didn't realize it. And this is how much it burned before like I called him on the telephone. It was this long.
I like it short. I like the short spoon.
I do too. It's giving leverage. Couldn't be prettier. Couldn't be easier. Couldn't be crunchier or juicier. Get ready to feast your eyes on cheese sheets. Oh my God. Mm-mm-mm. Toasty, cheesy, sizzling, melting. The thing that's so epic about the halloumi is like the edges are browned but they're still in their formation and have like a nice hard crisp edge, but then when you press on them, they're just like giving. And so you kind of can't see it with the naked eye from above. But what's happening is that all of the mozzarella is like underneath now, and it has like created this, everybody is like, it's a quicksand. It's like a cheese quicksand that everybody is like half sunken into. So let it sit for a second, just to like the way you would let a lasagna or a mac and cheese sit. Or we could just like go for it. Which one will I choose? Also similar to a lasagna, like people are gonna fight for the corners. Oh, see this? Like that, that's special to me. What's happening on the undercarriage. I like that. I like to behold that. Right? Like, how many people would be so happy if you were like, this is what's for dinner? This is dinner. And if this isn't enough, if this isn't substantial, I mean, I think it is, but say somebody really needs to have animal protein, just like shred up some rotisserie chicken and like add it after everything comes out of the oven. And then you have like, oh, then you do this. See how juicy? And then there's like all of the contrast, the toasty and the crunchy and the juicy and the melty, the spicy and the watery and the pungent and the toasty, roasty. I think I said toasty twice, but you get the idea. But then that just takes it to another level of having the cold thing on top of the hot thing. And it's sort of like, do you eat it with your hands or do you eat it with a fork? Or and then not one but two cheeses. So fun. Such a good bite. And remember, going back, 2 cans of chickpeas. So fun to eat. If I'm gonna make y'all wait around like 2 every 4 years, so 1 every other year for a sheet pan dinner, I really want it to be worth it. And this is worth waiting like 2 years for, in my opinion. Larb-anzo bean salad. So this recipe, I was stuck. I didn't know where to go. I had different ideas. None of them were gelling. I said to my co-creators of these videos, what do I do? Olivia said, what about a chickpea with the flavors of larb? And I said, you mean larb-anzo salad? And then I was off to the races. So this is taking 2 cans of chickpeas, drained and rinsed, and giving them a larb type of dressing and finishing. So there's gonna be some onion, some crushed peanuts, fish sauce, lime juice, a little sugar, a little heat, a little crunch, a little herb. So that's the concept. I really, at the beginning, wanted it to be like one of these recipes that just had you didn't need to use the stove at all. But in the end, we're gonna use the stove in a very chill way. This onion is gonna be used 2 ways, raw and cooked. So I'm gonna take half of the half and I'm gonna slice it, and that's gonna go into the cooked situation. So this is basically like, I don't know, I simplified it as much as I could so that toasting nuts, toasting seeds, frizzling onion could all happen in the same exact step. So it's a little bit non-conventional the way that I'm doing this, but it's effective. So I've got my onion. I'm going to take 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds. I'm kind of leaning on sesame seeds and chopped peanuts to do some of the like dry, crunchy textural work that in an actual larb would happen with toasted ground rice powder, which is just like a thing that is great, but didn't work for me as a component to this dish. So I'm using sesame seeds to deliver some of that like dry crunch and flavor, and also roasted salted peanuts. So I'm saying it's a little unconventional because normally, like, if you wanted to frizzle some onion, you would do it by itself in oil, and you would probably toast sesame seeds and nuts in a dry pan or in the oven. And I'm really just like wanting to not overthink something and get payoff as quickly and easily as possible. So we're just gonna rock it out. Coarsely chopping my nuts. Since I have a fine texture from the sesame seed, this doesn't have to be like crazy dusty or tiny. I'll season this with some salt. I have some coriander seed. There's going to be cilantro in the finished salad. So using coriander is just kind of like doubling down on that flavor. It will also get a little bit crunchy and obviously like nice aromatic bright flavor. Okay, so that all goes in. And then it's a 1/4 cup of veg oil. So 2 tablespoons twice. Can stir this up with our fireproof spoon. And it's gonna look like not enough oil, but I wanna keep this entire cooked situation to go into the salad. So I didn't want something swimming in oil. And as the onion starts to release some of its liquid and cooks down, it's gonna work out. This mixture is gonna go over medium-low heat and it's gonna cook. I'm gonna stir it. The onions are gonna shrink and shrivel and release juices. The seeds are gonna slowly toast, as are the nuts. Everything is gonna flavor each other. So for the dressing, I've got fresh lime juice, fish sauce, so bright and citrusy, funky and salty. Could not be easier. If you don't enjoy fish sauce, I would start with half the amount of Worcester or even soy sauce, and then give it a taste and go from there. And then that was a little bit of sugar and a little bit of toasted sesame oil. So it'll have nuttiness. Also the fat will help like carry all these flavors. It won't feel just like thin. You want to stir this to make sure the sugar dissolves. This, you can kind of imagine what it's going to taste like. It's 3 parts lime, 2 parts fish sauce with a dash of sugar. So it should taste like a condiment in that you're not like drinking this like soup. This is like a dressing, a pretty concentrated dressing. So that's going right over my chickpeas. This is another amazing one for the meal preppers and the lunch packers and all of that stuff, because the longer it sits in its marinade, the more delicious it's gonna get. There's my other quarter onion. I'm just peeking at these. Let's just look. It's been like 5 or 6 minutes. So with the darker sesame seeds, it's a little harder to tell when they're toasted. So I'm looking more at my peanuts and at the texture of the onion, which I want very floppy. And you can see how now it looks like there's like plenty of available oil now that the volume has gone down. So I'm gonna keep this going for like another 1 or 2 minutes. It's on very low now. And I'm gonna dice this onion. A shallot would be a great choice. A bulb onion would be a really nice choice too, or spring onion. You could use scallions for sure. But we used part of an onion because the other onion that's in this little nutty mixture over here is in slices. I just wanted to cut it like a different shape for the part that goes in raw. But if you felt like slicing it, it's fine. Okay, so this also goes in here. This looks awesome. Peanuts are toasty. Inside of peanut is toasty. And I'm gonna pour this directly over the chickpeas. Backwards and upside down. So I definitely intended for this to feel like a meal. You know, this is like a meat salad where instead of meat, it's chickpeas. This is also just a really great, yummy side. So this is all mixy mixed. This, you could leave this alone for hours. You could add your herbs hours later or right now. Okay, so I'm using cilantro and dill. But if you wanted to use cilantro by itself or all mint by itself or all dill, that would be great. There should be roughly like 1/3 cup of each herb. It's like a handful of each and then chopped. And if you're using one herb, you would just want about 2/3 cup combined. Okay, so this is nice. I actually really like it with the black sesame seeds just because you can see them more than the golden sesame seeds. All right, and then for some heat, a fresh red chili. This is like probably, I'm gonna taste it, I think a very spicy chili. I'm gonna cut it really tiny. I'm scared. I'm scared of how like petite yet deadly this could end up being. very small volume spread out. So we're not going for like blow your brains out spiciness. All right, let's give this a taste. It's definitely gonna need like some adjustments, but look how fun and like crunchy and fresh and herby. Does not need much. Little bit of salt. Barely needs it. Adding it anyway. Yum. Oh, it's really good. Okay, great textures, like creamy chickpea, nice toasty nuts. That little brittle crunch from the sesame seed is really good. But to eat it, like a nice green cabbage. I believe this was a Savoy cabbage that I got at the farmer's market when I was trying to embrace fall. And if there's like a really big rib, I might cut it out. Make a little crunchy cabbage wrapper. Whether you use cabbage or like a little gem. This other fresh crunchy thing is like another layer of texture that isn't really represented in the salad. Texturally, it's really great. It's fun to eat. It's interactive. It's all of the things. Had to take another bite, didn't I? Sometimes it's the best time I make it is on set, and it's really wild. It's not how it usually goes. Okay. So, to recap, canned chickpeas are the fucking greatest. You should always have them. You should do more than just throw them into a chopped salad, which if you want to go do that, go watch Carla's Dream Salad, where I like really lean into the chickpea of it all. But I wanted to give you dinners and I wanted them to be different. So we've got like a 1 skillet pasta. We've got a melt-a-thon, which has never existed before with cheese sheets. And we've got this delicious larby chickpea situation. I think they're all like really phenomenal. I'm really happy. And I really, truly, and genuinely love garbanzos. So this is something that I'm thinking about and I actually just wrote about for my 3rd book, which I'm working on and will someday be published. But I think that as a cook, it is your job to become sensitive to the palates of the people at your table, unless you're like a hardcore narcissistic, which a lot of chefs are, and they don't really care if you like it or not, and you're not allowed to make substitutions. But like for normal, empathetic, relational people like me and you know, if someone says that they like something or don't like something, you would adjust what you cook for them, right? And so I think Nina's like rosemary sensitivity has like, I've just absorbed it, even though like she's not over, I wish she was, but she's not over here being cooked for all the time. But I'm adding it because you know what? All of food is subjective, and part of being like free in this world is like cooking what the flavors that you like when you want to. So I absorbed the preferences of lots of people at my table and kind of made them my own. And then it's almost like somebody else's yuck becomes your yuck. And then you take a step back 24 years later and you're like, no, I like that. And I'm going to cook with it again and like live my life. So we're living our life with rosemary and a bunch of other stuff.